roads and water main needs millage, and move them to a presentation.
Okay, moved by trustee Benny, seconded by trustee Smith to delete the 5 and 6 as action items and reposition them as presentation. Discussion on the board. Those in favor of deleting 5 action items 5 and 6 from the action item list and adding them as a presentation, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? It will be so amended. Other additions to the agenda or deletions? Number 7? Oh, I'm sorry. It's been a while since I asked. I've got to talk with you. Things are getting sure. I'd like to make a motion to add action item number 7 to the agenda, which is authorization to process and distribute payments due to the holiday closings.
Support.
Okay, moved by trustee Van, seconded by trustee Bundy to add action item 7, another week, authorize another week of check payments, essentially. Discussion on the board. Okay, none offered. Those in favor of adding action item 7, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be added as action item 7. Then any other additions, deletions to the agenda? Okay, none offered. Those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is so amended. With that, we'll move on to the recently added presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As I mentioned, the 2 items on item 5 and 6, we wanted, the DPS Commission wanted to bring before the board an update and make you aware of what we're doing in regards to our long-term road and water main needs, millage, and along the way, back in, I believe, October, Wayne County came out with Wayne County Neighborhood Streets Initiative, which is another project that has to do with our roads. So we have been working on that project and have to get it ready for November entrance to Wayne County for approval. So we wanted to bring that before you also. So we're going to talk about those 2 now. I would like to ask Mr. Kostick to approach the microphone. I have Ted here, who's also on a member of our commission, and we hope to enlighten you on these. Hopefully you've had a chance to look that over and see, and we're going to talk about the Wayne County Neighborhood Streets Initiative first. But if you've looked over your information, you see that there are a number of individual projects involved in that. So we're not going to go through the projects by themselves specifically, but some time ago, and I believe our Wayne County Commissioner actually was here to talk about this, that Wayne County somehow came up with, I believe, $14 million to provide to the townships in Wayne County to work on the rural roads. And these are not our primary roads, but rather our secondary or non-primary roads. So we're not talking about East River, West River, Meridian. We're talking about our side streets, the Broadhead and Barber Lane and Berkshires, those types of roads. Of the 14 million, Grozia was allotted $1 million. In order for us to get that $1 million, we have to provide a 20% match. So for the $1 million, we have to provide $200,000. The program covers 2 years, the fiscal year 2015-16 and the fiscal year 2016-17. And it's split in half, so $500,000 is available for the first year and $500,000 for the second, plus our match. So, and match is a minimum that they require. We can always add more, but we're basically talking about $600,000 a year to work on our roads. The DPS Commission has worked extensively on our roads, looking at our long-term plan. But when this Wayne County came up, we re-energized ourselves, went back out for another road tour, and pretty much covered the island as far as seeing what projects we could do. Obviously, $1 million sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about roads, $1 million really isn't a lot of money. So there's no way, shape, or form that $1 million is going to cover all the needs that we have on the island. So we were faced with looking at two things. Basically, the commission looked at not only how bad the roads were, but more importantly to us was getting the biggest bang for our buck. So looking at areas where we could do some fixes and cover an area that would service a lot of our residents. So that was kind of how we prioritized our projects. And within your packet, you have a breakdown of the various projects that we have. They should be broken down for you by the first segment, 2015-16, and then the second segment, 2016-17. At this point, Bill, is there anything you would like to add to that in describing what we're doing?
Well, you know, I'm short on words usually, but
normally, I would just say, yeah, I would hope you'd come out of your shell.
Yeah, I would just say that after the county announced the program and came to you, we had three special meetings on it. The first one was almost 5 hours long. We drove the island for about 3 hours and came back and tried to put a list together and gave our engineers instructions to come back with cost estimates for what would it take. And the concrete, you know, it's like we did the square foot measurements. They went out and did them, linear feet for some of the maintenance stuff like joint crack sealing, and then they came back with a list. And then we spent a special meeting 2 or 3 more hours going through that list, and everybody had input in our commission as to what they would do priority-wise, and then we came up with the list that you have. So each is about $600,000, which fulfills our needs, and we would like to ask you to look at it, and hopefully by the end of October, my thought is allow us to present to the county.
I would just like to add, in looking over the projects, you'll notice we have extensive crack and joint sealing. And that is exactly what it says. Sealing cracks on a road extends the life of that road immeasurably, from letting that water seep into those cracks, get underneath, destroy the base, destroy the road from the bottom up. So we have you see a lot of that in there. And then concrete sectioning, that's just, broken, sunken areas of the concrete along the road that we would cut out a section and replace it.
First a comment and then a question. Maybe our manager would like to weigh in on this, but he attended in my stead a meeting in Canton with several of the townships as to how they were going to implement this road funding initiative. And I want to pat our DPS group, the roads committee, especially on the back. We had a plan where most of the other townships did not have a plan. We had matching funds where most of the other townships didn't have matching funds. We are months ahead, if not years ahead of them in our road planning, our planning for maintaining your roads, our roads. So when I see the amount of work that primarily DPS has put into it, and our township staff and the residents, because you let us know when the roads are failing. We've got a head start in the other communities. We're ready to go. If they were to cut the check tomorrow, we could spend it wisely in improving your roads, and it was just discouraging that some of the other communities just weren't ready. We've got a leg up on them, and so first of all, thanks for being proactive on this, so that when these opportunities, which nobody expected, but when this opportunity now presents itself, we get to take full advantage of it. And the other question I have, and maybe this information is out and I missed it, the chip seal program, where are we on that? I've been asked and I just don't know.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. I'll answer your first question first, and then just...
Okay.
My perspective on the reason that the others aren't prepared is that they need more attention than we do from the county. I was going to recite this in the next item, but I'll give it to you right now. Traditionally, and Wally knows this, Wayne County has always published a list of needs, their so-called needs projects list, that runs for who knows how many years, but it's 200 projects on it. Most generally, each project is about a mile to a mile and a half of road. This year, they did 15 projects. On the 200 needs list last year, we had one project. This 2015 needs list, we have one project. And what it is, it's Meridian Road to be resurfaced from Grosse Hill Parkway to Church, 1.75 miles. Last year, we were 74th on the list. They did 15 projects this year. We're 72 on the list for 2015. So what that tells you is the county's not a solution for us.
No.
All the other communities that say that they, and we're prepared, we've drawn money from various sources. What I heard the complaint was they're ready to front the money because I think Canton, who gets a lot of attention from the county, and they have more traffic and more needs as well, but everything's relative. They don't have a road millage, but they do have a big fund balance that they could draw on just to front the money for their share. But they're going to get, $1.5 million a year, and we get $500,000. So all the other townships are bigger than us. I think one other township, we get $500,000, and the rest get $1 million or $1.5 million. So you got to keep that in perspective. So I think the others just get more money every year because these 15 projects that weren't built in our community, and they're not going to repave any roads in our community at the rate they're going for many years. When I talk about resurfacing a mile of road, I think you know what I'm speaking to.
I want to be clear. Bill talked to $500,000, maybe $1 million. That's per year.
Right.
And keep in mind, this is a 2-year deal. We only get half the first year and the other half the second year. So we can't use it all at once. We have to do it according to that schedule. I also want to point out, and this is why I feel very fortunate to be on the DPS Commission as the liaison, is Bill Kostick and Jim Nelson sitting back there. He's on the commission. This commission, every one of those commissioners is involved in this. It's not a commission where 3 guys show up for the road tour, 8 guys show up for the road tour. Everybody's involved. They put a lot of time in on this. They put a lot of time in on the Wayne County. We are ready to go, I think, as long as the board itself has no problems with what we're doing. We're ready to go up to the county. We have to have our projects into the county by the end of November. They are supposed to act on those, I believe, by the end of December to just let us know whether we can or can't do them. And then we can start working on it in fiscal year 2015.
Jim, can I address the second issue on the chip seal? I think it's important.
Yes.
I thought maybe by word of mouth you heard what happened, but in April, when I returned from Florida, we went to the county, and it was in April, and we asked the county we asked them last November to approve the plan. By April, they hadn't done anything with our chip seal program, because nobody else chip seals in Wayne County. So we had verbal approval that day, and they said, the next 2 weeks, by the end of April, you'll have a letter from us. We didn't get the letter till June. And after several calls by our engineers to the county. And so we took bids without the approval, but we couldn't award a contract till we had the approval. So when we awarded the contract, the contractor that was awarded the contract, that's what they do, is chip seal. They had all their work lined up. They were scheduled to hit us by the end of August,
early September. And as you know, I think we told you at one point or another, it's when it gets too cold at night, like 50 degrees, that's not good. You want it to be not lower than 60 degrees at night. So we're talking about summer. July and August is the primary time for this. Well, it got delayed. How many rain days did we have this year? So the contractor got delayed, and he asked for extension till the 15th of September, and we never responded to that. But then he asked for it to be October 1st. Well, look at the kind of evenings we've been having. So we finally consulted with the manager, and our commission decided that we would, rather than get a bad job, that we would wait till spring. Now the guarantee is, I hope, that by July 15th, he'll have our roads done. So we'll be first on the list next year. And I'm sorry you didn't hear that, but that's the status, and I hope you understand.
No, it's, like you said, let's wait and do a good job rather than have one that's going to flake off because it didn't cure properly. But it hasn't been a hot summer by any means. It's been kind of a wet one. But
Yeah, well, we ended up being last on their list, and so we're last.
Thank you, Wayne County.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So if and when we do get these funds, will you be bidding the job both years together?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
You mean the next year's program?
16.
Yes, well, I think we'll bid them one at a time because the list may change.
Okay.
I think at least we haven't even talked about that, but it would be bid. But, we could add things depending on how the first year goes. We may change things a little bit, but primarily I think where we at. And the only thing I'd say is we tried to spread out the improvements throughout our whole community. So north to south on the island, east to west, not every street and so forth, but improvements are in every neighborhood.
I would say every area will be touched, so it might not be your street that gets the improvement, but leaving your street to the next street might be where the improvement is, so everybody will see something. We worked very hard on that also. That was very important to us that we did spread it across the island and not just concentrate on one area.
I just have a comment. You'll notice on this project that the crack sealing and joint sealing was heavily concentrated on the first year. I was totally amazed that the Wayne County Commission voted to release the funds for the first year project because this almost seemed like a political vote for me type action when it first came out. But they did, and they give the Wayne County Board of Commissioners a lot of credit. Am I optimistic about the second year? Not very. But we've got a commitment on the first year. It's $500,000. We're going to move forward with that. And I'm really glad to see that the majority of the repair infrastructure, at least the holding portion of it, was done in the first year, because I'm not really convinced we're going to see that money in the second. I hope we do, but I'm not sure we will.
Unfortunately, I agree with Ted, and again, to Bill and the Commission's credit, the bigger portion of the work, I believe, is in the first year. The smaller projects, the projects that don't hit as many people, is in the second year. And so we should fare fairly well, because the first year I think we're going to get. Second year we hope we're going to get.
Well, I will be skeptical. I'll hope things will move along as promised. Let's relay this to the voters who approved the roads millage. That gave us the matching funds to be able to jump into this, knowing we could come up with our share and then rely on the county to come up with what they promised. So, voters, thank you for helping take care of your community. And thank you, Wayne County Commissioner, Mr. Palomera.
Any other questions on this? Or Bill, did you want to say anything else?
No. Based on earlier presentations, and as far as the chip sealing goes, we spoke of over this past year, certain roads fell off the list because of the deterioration from the past winter. If we have a winter anywhere near, like last year, I would assume that some of these roads may fall off the current list. Am I correct?
I hope not.
I hope not at all. But
Here's the reason. The street that fell off was Ferry. And And what happened on Ferry, the asphalt surface just broke up too much. You know, you talk in terms of an asphalt road beginning to alligator with all the lines on it, look like alligator skin. Well, the spots really started to separate. The alligator spots started to separate, so that the patching that would be required was severe on Ferry. So the conclusion was is that all the contractors that we brought out and engineers said you really should consider resurfacing that section of the road. Now, the contract that we got for this chip seal included patching of the surface areas that are deteriorated, where you just don't want to chip seal over them. So in each mile, the contractor is supposed to be in by October 1st or so. In early October, the paving contractor, there was a subcontract to a paving contractor that the chip seal contractor employed to do the repairs. So they're going to come in and do the repairs of the bad spots this year, so that they'll get through the winter better. So that's our strategy. Good question.
But do we have, is there, you know, in this list of roads we're going to do, if 2 or 3 roads or 2 or 3 sections fall off, are there plans to go down to the next?
We don't have a plan, no, and I'm very hopeful that even with a bad winter, with the repairs we're going to make, that we'll be able to chip seal those, or we might just consider a few more repairs if some sections come back.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. Wally?
Let me close it down. You guys have done a whale of a job, number one. Number two, when you look at the population of Canton versus the population of Grosse Ile, I'm sure that has some bearing as the amount of dedication of funds. And how much did we get 2 years ago? Nothing. How much did we get last year? Nothing. How much did we get this time? A promise of $500,000. We're headed in the right direction.
Yeah. And Canton's population, they're the largest township in the state. I think they're 80,000 people. We're just a little under 11.
Yeah.
You want to go on to the next one?
Yeah, with that, moving right along, the next one, long-term roads and water main needs millage is what the action item was. And well over a year ago, the DPS Commission started on this. We could see that we weren't going to get any help from Wayne County, and that, as we've told individuals and as we know ourselves, you can jump up and down all you want and scream all you want that they're Wayne County roads and Wayne County should be doing it, but over the last good number of months, you've seen one article after another where it's shown the individual communities are going to have to take this on, or else their roads are going to deteriorate to nothing. So I like to think we were kind of ahead of the curve or could see what was coming, and we started on this. This is, again, a lot of time has been put in on this to try and get, again, the biggest bang for our buck. What roads and what are we going to do to service the most residents? Along with that, the roads, we also took into consideration our water mains. We have a huge percentage of our water mains that are the original, that were 6-inch or 8-inch, and probably today are down to 2-inch. It's, we didn't want to put a new road down and then dig it up or dig up part of it, because then, we have a water main break or we want to do a section. So we thought, and I believe rightfully so, that we should also attack the water main problem right along with it, and that's what we've done in our plan. Bill put a ton of work in on this, and so I'll turn it over to him and let him explain what we've come up with.
Thank you. Well, I think that's no surprise. Most of you should know, but over the last couple of years, we've been focusing on a long-term fix or proposal for our roads and our water system. It started, this map identifies Church Road, but it started with a discussion on what are we going to do about Church Road. All the engineers say that Church itself is deteriorated to the point it needs to be reconstructed, And of course, it has deep ditches on it, sidewalks need to be repaired, so it looked at Church Road. And if anybody's watching, incidentally, our plan, we don't cut any trees down on Church Road. That's important. So we don't have a specifically designed thing for Church Road yet, but we know what we have to do, okay? So we haven't authorized the engineering on that yet. So anyway, for 2 years we started to study this, and we looked at all our other roads. We came up with the chip seal, and the map that's on the screen now shows you the yellow is where we would reconstruct or resurface roads, the red is Church Road, and the green are all the chip seal roads. And if we were successful with this chip seal, and we know that everybody else is, I don't know why we wouldn't be. Monroe, all the other counties in the state but Wayne County do this. And many cities in our area do it successfully. So that's what our proposal is. But what I'm asking for you, and it was never our intent tonight, never my intent to present this to you and say, please approve it. What we wanted to do is ask you to consider it, and ask you to consider it in a timely fashion so that if you don't agree with us or want to make some changes in it, we'll sit down with you. And we'd like to move forward with something to go to the voters next year, either next August or next November. And I've talked to Sharon, that would require probably a special election that doesn't cost a lot of money, it costs some, but just to think about how we might proceed with this. That would give us time to go to the county, and that's important. If you approve something, a road program, we have to go to the county and get their consent. Part of what and I'll go through my program and I'll address that. But we prepared a report, and I think that Jim just distributed a hard copy for you all that came out a little clearer than the ones in your packet electronically. That you can take home and study it, mark it up, do what you want with it, ask questions of me or anybody else on the commission. It's purposely written, it's brief, it's to the point. Oh, there he goes. My assistant is, he fell asleep in the back. We specifically made the report brief, so it gets right to the point, and hopefully it's clear of what we're proposing to do. And it's making an investment in our community. In fact, the title says, Fixing Our Roads, a Great Community Investment. And of course, along with that goes water. We don't want to pave a road and have the water main under it or alongside of it in bad shape, if our intent is to fix the water main, and we have some big water main projects that are proposed. But on roads, we've really studied over the last couple of years, and it's been in the media, the problems at the state of Michigan level, and they distribute the money back to the counties, and we all know that Wayne County has got 10% less revenue than it had in the year 2000. Revenues have sort of stabilized right now with gas tax revenues, but people are getting more fuel economy, driving less, more concerned about the expenditure of money for gas. So, road money's down, and I already explained about where we stand with our only project. East River Road's not on the county list. Grosse Hill Parkway's not on the county list. Church Road's not on the county list. West River's not on the county list for the foreseeable future. So, looking to Wayne County is no solution. In 2012, the city of Riverview approved 3 mills for 10 years to fix their roads. I can tell you right now that many other communities are having millage and bond issues go up for roads, whether it's Farmington Hills, 2 mills, Southfield, $99 million bond issue for roads, and they're talking about fixing their roads and some county roads where Oakland County is not going to get to their needs. And I know several smaller communities that are doing similar things. And even if the legislature does act on road revenues, how much is really going to trickle to Grosse Hill? I would doubt if it'd be a significant amount at all. So, in my opinion, our opinion, waiting for Wayne County is no solution. Our proposal is to improve 26 miles. Now, this bond issue, if we go forward with anything, our proposal proposes to improve almost every primary and secondary road in the township, not local neighborhood roads. We'll still have our millage for that, but every primary and secondary roads, and the map depicts, and all of you that have the report can see that. And who are we competing with? We're competing with all these communities that I mentioned earlier, but this proposal includes rebuilding Church Road, rebuilding Ferry Road, resurfacing East River for almost 4 miles of it, West River for 3 miles of it. It includes Belleville, South Point, Bridge, and on, Park Lane. So the network of roads, and we would hope to get this information disseminated to the public, that's what this proposal is all about. Now, on the water, we've spent hours studying a water reliability study that was done in 2010, and you may recall that there was a study done in 2010 which measured flows and pressures in all our water mains throughout the community. And that study identified where we had weak points or where we had points where some 60 to 70-year-old water mains are a real problem. And the fire chief came to us, I don't think he's here, but came to us in February of this year and said, you really need to focus on repairing the mains on East and West River. They've been known for a long time. So we took that study and we spent hours going through it as well and came up with a list of priorities. And so here's what we have. What's proposed is a $9 million bond issue for roads. And with that, we hope to leverage some $4 million worth of grants through Wayne County that's federal money. It's sort of pass-through money. And that's one thing we have to meet with them about, because one issue that we've talked about is if we're going to spend this kind of money on county roads, we better get some assistance from them. Two forms of assistance. One, let us do what we want to do. And instead of adding to our project costs, I could see on Church Road, if we fix the ditches and widen the road 4 feet, then we start the typical stuff about, well, you've got to cut this tree down or that tree because we need clearance. We need to do what we want to do if we're going to spend our money. So we're going to have to negotiate with them. And we have to get some assurance that over the next 4 years following this, that's the proposal, we build all this stuff in 4 years, that we would be able to leverage federal money, get them to say, okay, we'll give you $1 million here and $1 million there. Well, we're asking for $1 million a year. They have $30 million worth of federal grant money. It's time we spend it. If we're going to spend money on our roads to fix it, we should get their cooperation. The project, or the proposal also includes $9 million worth of water mains. It just happened that it worked out. We got close to that, and so we have an $18 million program. Now, if we get approval, the report goes on to say in its conclusion that I would commend you to the last part of the report. We probably would sell bonds in 2 issues. Maybe the first one would be 10 or 12. We'd have to work with bond counsel on that. And that might cost $1.5 million. And then 2 more years later, we'd sell the rest of it, and that would be a total equivalent of about 2.85 mils. 2.85 mils in total. Now everything's been estimated on the high side. Everything's been estimated at 5% interest rate. So there's a lot of work we'd have to do on this yet, but I know it's a big issue for all of you, but it's something we've been working on a long time, and we think it's the right thing to do for the good of our community. And it's up to us. I think if you all approve something at some point, the commission has talked about that, and we get county approval, that we'll go out next spring and summer and explain it to the residents. And that's all we can do, ask them to vote on it.
And that's a very important part of it. It's not, we're not just going to end up at the time of the election to let people know what's going on. We're going to be, if this is gets the go-ahead, we're going to be out there from the get-go. We'll be more than happy to meet with anybody. We're going to have information out there, have meetings on it. So the people that are interested can get an answer. It might, in some cases, it might not be an answer that they like, but we will talk to anybody about this because we think it's a project. As you can see on the map, it covers the whole island. It affects the whole island. Everybody drives our primary roads, so everybody is involved in that. And this, believe me, is the only way things are going to get done. It's unfortunate, but that is the way it is.
Other questions, quick record.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and thank you, Chairman Gostick and the DPS for putting this together. Excellent report. The question I have is that hopefully if this goes through, that you will consider the Complete Streets Initiative especially when you're looking at the outside roads, and if there could be a bike lane or a wide shoulder or some other provisions if you're going to be tearing up and doing this big of a project anyway.
That's a great point. I'm glad you asked it. And we have already talked about it on East River and on Church, and wherever else we can do it, we're going to do it. Now, I can't promise that on West River, because, we got problems there that are different, but wherever we can, we're going to look at that as well. It's a good point.
Mr. Treasurer.
Due to my age and my position with the DPS, I'm going to give you a little historical perspective here. Our water mains and water main maintenance and upgrade over the past 10 or 12 years has suffered greatly because the federal government came in, mandated that we upgrade our sewer project to the tune of about $50 million. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying it is. So consequently, most of our infrastructure upgrades and repairs beyond that project has been placed on hold. The water mains were in pretty bad shape 10, 15 years ago. And then we devoted most of our funding through this sewer project. Now, the sewer project has done some wonders for the township in the respect that it upgraded the system. We're no longer flooding basements, as you've heard some of the disaster stories in some of the surrounding communities where everybody's underwater. We've managed to get through that with some pretty substantial rains without any complaints at all. So that portion of it was very successful. However, what it did do was divert funds that probably we would have stretched out between the water and sewer mains, and we may not have been in a position where a $9 million or an $8 million or $7 million bond up front would be required. That's how we got there with that. The attitude of the township, and not saying this is a bad attitude either for years, was that Wayne County owned the roads, let them fix them. And we fought with them and we fought with them. I personally fought with them for 22 years. Then I drugged Bill Kostick into the fight. He's been fighting with them for the last 5 or 6. And we both ended up at the same place. We're going to come to our residents and ask them to fix their roads. With some cooperation, of course. But that's how we got here. And I think that's important to know, because it's not that anybody here neglected the necessity. We just did not have the funding to do everything at one time. And the funding to go forward with these projects is going to be difficult for the taxpayers to absorb, because as it stands, we're looking at probably before the sewer project is bonded out or paid off, we're probably in 2024, and we're asking to move forward on this project much before then, because by 2024, we'll probably be driving on dirt roads. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. So again, we're going to be asking for an initiative of the residents of Grosse Ile to move forward on a project, knowing that it's mandatory for our quality of life and our property values on this island. And that's why we'll come to you. You'll have the final decision. It'll be a bond issue that will be put in front of the voters, and you'll have that final decision. And I'm sure you'll hear this speech a lot of times between now and then. But I think it's important to know where our history is, where it's brought us. And I want to compliment Bill Kostick particularly, and the DPS department in general, because they busted their rear ends putting together a project that most people wouldn't have even had the ability to put the knowledge together. We happen to have the knowledge on our commission. We have the drive and the initiative on our commission, and I'm very proud to be a taxpayer in this area when I know at least the right people are looking at these projects moving forward. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Well, I've got a question here. I realize this is all, the chart that we're looking at is based on engineering figures, but refer to the units as square yards. Is there any simple way to do a conversion between square yards and lineal feet? I know there's variables, the thickness of the concrete, the width of the road. But if I'm looking at 300 square yards, is there any way to do a conversion to X amount of lineal feet?
You're talking about the other item.
Yes, I'm sorry, about the repairs, yes.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sure there is, but the problem is that the repairs differ. Some are a whole slab, and some are 3 feet by 3 feet. So they all measure differently depending on the severity of the concrete fit.
I get it, I'm looking at square yards, I just,
Well, that's the only way you can do it, because the slab's different streets were built at different times, so the slab's different in size. And then in many cases, we're trying to stretch the dollars so that if a lot of joints are right at the seam where 4 slabs come together, rather than replace 4 slabs, if it looks like we can salvage it, you cut out a square, it might be 4 foot square, and fix the joint.
okay. I wasn't trying to say everything, I was
So
just...
there's no easy answer to do
Okay,
that. yeah.
thank you.
Okay, well, we've got them. Any further comments, questions for Mr. Costick? If not, we'll, closing comments?
Yes, and my only last comment would be that I hope that within the next 30 to 45 days, you can bring this back and talk to any of us in the meantime. Thank you very
We're
much.
looking for it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Costick. That will conclude our presentation for this evening. At this time, I'll open the podium up for public comment. Agenda items for tonight. Any public comment? All right, if not offered, we'll move along to consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Sure, Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a consent agenda 14-077, which is the minutes of the August 25th, 2014 regular meeting, the check register dated August 27th, 2014, the check register dated September 8th, 2014, and the check register dated September 19th, 2014.
Support. Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney on the consent agenda. Any discussion among the board? If none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The consent agenda is approved. That will move to action items, and if I can figure this thing out, I will introduce action item number 1, which will be the winter tax levy. I'm catching on to this. And Eric helps me out when I'm absolutely lost. But I managed this one. Okay, so I move that the Grosse Township Board of Trustees resolve to levy on the taxable value of said township for the year 2014, the winter billing, a tax of 10.9352 mills on the taxable value thereof, said value being $563,780,603. Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. The background is the 2014 winter tax levy must be approved by the board by September 30th, 2014, and the L4029 submitted to Wayne County. That's the form that we forward the various levies for the millages. The public safety building debt levy is not being collected for 2014. We'll go into the individual ones that are available for public scrutiny. Questions, comments among the board? Or I guess I could read the millages. It's a little tedious. But the allocated millage is what we run the general fund with. The extra voted millage is additional funding to run township services and part of the cost of the police. We have 1, 2, 3 police millages at 1 mil, and .75, all voter approved. Fire operations, 1.5 mils, and fire equipment, .499. Recreation, .499. Rec operations, recently approved, .375. Road maintenance, as we discussed, .4 mils. Drainage, .33. I'll talk more about that later. Library, .3, and the judgment bond, 1.1, for a total of 10.9352 winter. And somewhere in there it says the extra 5+ mills that we just collected for summer. That's how we run the township. Most of those mills have been approved by you, the electorate. I think we're doing a pretty good job with your dollars. Questions, comments among the board? All right, none for those in favor of approving or resolving to approve the 2014 winter tax levy of 10.9352 mills for the levy, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? So it shall be. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would like to make a recommendation to appoint Wendy Kearney to the Festival Commission for the term length of September 23rd, 2014 to August 31st, 2017.
Support. Okay, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Budney.
Just to let you know, Wendy has actually been a part of Island Fest to some degree for several years now, so she's actually an excellent candidate to fill the spot for Julie Cordes, who vacated her position earlier this year. I think her involvement in the past is going to actually make her a very valuable member of the commission, and she was unanimously voted in at the August 20th meeting.
Thank you. Very good. Other questions, comments from the board on the appointment of Wendy Kearney? All right. With that offered, those in favor of approving Wendy Kearney to the Festival Commission, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. Wendy, if you're listening, thanks for volunteering. Thanks for your participation thus far. Let's move to action item number 3. We'll have that to Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to make a motion to award a bid for the Loma Circle Drainage Project at West River to D&E Landscape and Grading, Inc., lowest bidder, in the amount of $23,164.75, based upon the recommendation of the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company.
Support. Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss to approve. Some background?
Some background. This was to go out for the bid was I brought before you previously. This all started actually over a year ago when we were having all our rains, not this past summer, but the summer before. Mr. and Mrs. Albright, who live on West River Road, second house off the corner, with all the rains, they came from Loma Circle North and Loma Circle behind their house, came down Loma Circle, but made a turn, went across the neighbor's lawn over to the Albright home, and decided to go through their house to make its way to West River Road. It made there was a lot of damage to their home. It went in there, the door wall in the back and out the front door. If you can imagine that, that is a lot of water. They came to us. They went to. I want you to know they did their homework. They've put a lot of time into this. They went to Wayne County, who, again, should be taking care of this to some extent, but they also brought it to us, and we looked at it and said, what can we do? Something has to be done to change the direction of that water. This is a culmination of that. We went throug't it. Very basically, the ditch along Loma Circle will be cleared out. Some pipe will be put in, 24-inch pipe. I mean, so you can imagine that's a big pipe. That's how much water runs through that area. 24-inch pipe, and so that we can get the water going down along Loma Circle, down this ditch, and out to a catch basin at West River in Loma Circle, and then flow out to from there and stay away from the properties. I believe they're also doing some burning there to make sure it stays in the ditch. But that's what this is. It's the culmination of this project that we've talked about before, and this is where we're at.
Comment, Mr. Treasurer?
Yes. The Albrights have a disaster going in their location. The Wayne County drain is a drain that's the perpetrator here. We've contacted Wayne County. We've gotten little or no support for them. So CE Raines went out, did the eval. Everybody agrees that this is the way to fix it. Wayne County chooses not to participate in that either. These are taxpayers of Grosse Ile. We're going to move forward. I'm going to urge the Township Board to go forward with this project. It's my plan again to send a bill to Wayne County, and as soon as they pay it, I'm going to take everybody out to dinner. But don't count on it. Don't wait for your next meal. But I think it's important to know that these projects, they keep coming back to us for lack of funds through Wayne County, and yet our residents suffer. And they suffer big time. I mean, this is a disaster at their home. It's so bad that the last couple of rains we've gotten here, we've had a township pump over there trying to prevent it from happening again until we get this drain fixed. I mean, this isn't a minor problem. I mean, you could virtually wash their house away. So I think it's very important that we move forward on this, and I really encourage the board to vote for it.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may add to that, not only did it do this damage well over a year ago, but these poor people are sitting there not being able to fix it for the fear that it may happen again, along with some other things. As Ted says, we've actually had 2 pumps there trying to keep the water out of their house. And although we talk about the Albrights' house, and certainly they've been affected, this water is coming from the whole Loma Circle area. It's going to help that whole area. It's not just, not just the one house, and we obviously don't want it running through their house, but it's going to help that whole area. So this is not us just doing it for one person, or one family, but for the whole area there. I think it's certainly another one of these where it's well worth that we do it, and I would certainly hope that the board approve it.
Okay. Thank you, Treasurer Van Oss. Mr. Budney, other comments? Mr. Marvesto?
Jim, upon approval of this motion, when will the work take place? When will it start and when will it finish? Bill, do we have a start date from them?
The contractor said he'll try to finish it by the end of October.
So we want to get this as quickly as possible. It's been going on for some time. I believe we went out as a commission along with our DPS management and looked at this in June, and we've been trying to get this done, and we want to get it done well before the end of the year.
Okay. For those who didn't pick it up at home, end of October was Mr. Kostick's comment on completing this project. Clerk Banker, do you have an addendum?
Just really briefly, we've got a drainage millage for problems exactly like this, right? And it's not just this homeowner that can be affected by this, but there's grant programs at the rest of the township if you've got issues similar to this, or even hopefully much smaller than this issue, but you can certainly apply for that grant program as well with the drainage funds and the drainage millage that we have here on Grosio.
Good point. Thanks, Eric.
Other comments? Okay, I did see the devastation to the Albright home, and as we went through this previously on setting this up, it's one of those things where had it been maintained properly all along, probably wouldn't be in this pickle. We are where we are. We're going to fix it. Well, pending the vote, we'll move to fix it and preclude this from happening again, and that's something I'll discuss a little bit more later this evening. But other questions, comments from the board? If none offered, those in favor of awarding to D&E Landscape and Grading the bid award for the Loma Circle Drainage Project in the amount of $23,164.75 based on the recommendation of both the DPS Commission and the Charles E. Raines Company. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The motion carries, and we'll be doing our jobs. Let's move along to...
Actually, on row 7, it's...
Well, we've got one more. Mr. Budney.
Yeah, they just...
We can go back. We got to do it order. I'm sorry. Mr. Budney.
I would like to make a motion to approve the CPI adjustment of 2% beginning October 1st, 2014 for United Water's contract service at the wastewater treatment plant.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Trustee Smith. Background and explanation.
This is just one of the things that's part of our contract with United Water. Within the contract, there's a paragraph for an adjustment each year based on the CPI of the Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint area. The 2% is what the CPI for the Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint area is, and we're just following the contract. I would like to mention along with this, the contract expires September 30th. We're working on a new contract, but we feel, and United Water is going to work with us on a month-to-month basis, but we feel that this is proper to award this 2%.
Okay. Questions, comments among the board? I will say, from my perspective, learning what I've learned about wastewater treatment plants, I know I can call over there probably any time, day or night. Whatever Joe's doing, he'll drop it, answer my questions. Yeah, no discharge, everything's running fine, detention basin isn't full. Thank you, Joe. We'll be looking at this contract again to get him to work as hard as possible for as little as possible, but this contract extension is, for now, in my opinion, the right thing to do. Other questions, comments among the board? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving a CPI adjustment of 2% beginning October 1st, 2014 for United Water's contract services at the wastewater treatment plant, those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. Motion carries. Mr. Treasurer.
Now I can say it. Action item number 7 is authorized to process and distribute payments due to the holiday closings. You want me to read some of this before we... Well, that's what it's for.
That's what the motion. Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van House, seconded by Trustee Budney to authorize the Finance Director and Accounts Payable Department to process and distribute payments, and to authorize the Clerk's Office and Treasurer's Office to sign the payments through October 3rd, due to there being an extra week between board meetings dates as scheduled in accordance with the official meeting schedule. We have to authorize the clerk to go through the accounts receivable, the treasurer to pay them, finance director to find the money. So this is just a continuing operation on the rare occasions that we have an extra week between board meetings. An administrative function, but we have to do it. We're being good stewards of your money, and we're completely transparent with its expenditures. Questions, comments among the board? With none offered, those in favor of authorizing the Finance Director and Accounts Payable to process and distribute those payments, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will carry. Continue to pay the bills. We'll keep the lights on. That will complete our action items for tonight. We'll move on to the clerk's report. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor. The clerk's report, I'm going to start and end with the same statement because it's a very important statement. We've got some changes for this election cycle. So voters who normally vote in precincts 3 or 4 at the VFW Hall on Macomb Street will instead be voting at the St. James Episcopal Church on East River Road for the November election. Voting for future elections is yet to be determined. We'll explain that in maybe a few minutes. So in general about the election, the last day for new voters to register for the general election on November 4th is October 6th by 5 p.m. So if you've got people who are not registered and you would like to have them registered, October 6th at 5 p.m. is the last time you get them registered. Anyone who will be 18 years of age on or before November 4th is eligible to register or to vote in this election. Sample ballots are available for preview on our Grozier webpage on the clerk's page, or also at the Secretary of State page with the state of Michigan. Absentee ballots will be available in the clerk's office the week of September 22nd. The last day to request an absentee ballot by mail is 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 1st. Absentee ballots may be voted in the clerk's office until 4 p.m. Monday, November 3rd. The ballots may not leave the office on November 3rd. When requesting an absentee ballot in person, be prepared to provide a photo identification to the clerk staff. And we are accepting applications for paid election inspectors until October 3rd. Call or visit the clerk's office to apply. And then once again, voters who normally vote in precincts 3 and 4 at the VFW Hall on Macomb Street will be voting at the St. James Episcopal Church on East River Road for the November election. And voting for future elections are yet to be determined. And that's because there's some pending real estate actions with the VFW Hall. And that's it for the clerk's report.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Ranka. Move on to Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Supervisor. Excuse me, the August financial reports are not available and will not be until the middle of next week due to the heavy traffic for taxpayers. The Treasurer's Office has been collecting summer taxes from mortgage companies and individuals that were due on September 15th. We continue to accept summer tax payments with a 1% penalty, then an additional 1% per calendar month until March of 2015. They can be paid here. After March 15th, of course, it goes to county. Please note that local bank branches cannot accept late tax payments. You must come to Township Hall. Property owners who have mortgage escrow accounts may check online at grocia.com and the Treasurer's webpage to ensure that their 2014 tax payments have been made by their mortgage company. As of September 19th, we've collected 84% of the 2014 summer tax rolls. Distributions of school and county taxes have been made on a timely basis. I think when's the 20th, our Commerce Park Commission will meet. And I believe that's all I have.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We'll move on to trustee reports. We'll start with Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just want to remind everybody that the Centennial Celebration is going to be taking place on Saturday, October 11th, from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Macomb Street. There are going to be trolley stops, petting farm, all the nonprofits will be out there, hay rides, parking will be available at the high school parking lot. A full list of the events that are taking place that afternoon will be available in the October 2nd issue of the EL Camera. So just save the date. Everybody better be there, right?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is that...
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
Ms. Malvesta.
There's really no report tonight?
I'm sorry. There's really no report this evening, but there will be a rec commission meeting this Thursday, 7:30. Anybody's invited to attend.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Modesto. Mr. Bugby.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. No ZBA meeting, again, I know, I can just hear the people that are watching on TV going, but no ZBA this month. Ordinance enforcement, the program is actually going very well. We're getting almost total cooperation from everybody who has gotten notice, which I'm really pleased with. I think Tony is really pleased with also. But as we're coming here to the end of summer and the end of September, I just want to mention one of the big initiatives that we're going to have is we have an ordinance that says no storage of boats, RVs, trailers in a front yard. Front yard can be the normal front yard. If you happen to live on the water, you have two front yards, the waterfront yard and your street front yard. If you live on a corner, you have a front yard and a front yard, as I found out since I live on a corner. But there will be notices going out to people who have boats parked in their front yards, indicating, obviously asking them to store them somewhere else. So just a word in advance that will be one of our
next initiatives in this program. So plan on storing your boat somewhere other than your front yard. And then just on a personal note, and I apologize for taking the time for a personal thing, but I want to congratulate my son-in-law Kirk and my daughter Andrea, my 3 grandsons, Logan, Caden, and Mason, on the arrival of their first sister this Thursday. So congratulations, kids.
And
that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buddy. Ms. Pozas.
Bringing up the rear. A couple of things. First of all, one of a personal nature also. There's a giant in our community. His name is Art Kester, and he's very ill right at the moment, but I understand he's recovering in hospital. He and Claire have had some health issues recently. Keep him in your prayers. If you think of it, send him a get well card, and let's wish him a very swift and total recovery from their illnesses. Good news. If you go by the fountain, or I will buy anyone a drink tonight, you can stand on their bricks. The bricks are in. We have plenty of room for people who want to buy bricks. The front end of the display has been constructed. It looks like $1 million, getting ready for Saturday, and the dedication of the fountain by the Island Roadrunners at 10 o'clock, and all of Groseal is invited to attend that. Come on down and celebrate some island pride. It's you folks that put that fountain there and put the bricks around it, and we want to thank you all. So come on down and join us about 10 o'clock. That's, again, the 27th, which is this coming Saturday. We have 2 committees working on paths. One is soft paths and one is hard paths. The soft paths is the Greenways and Open Space Committee, and they are giving a lot of attention this year to the soft paths, mulching and putting up identifications of species of trees and fixing the places that tend to get a little muddy during the year. And it's a total volunteer effort. They really are low-key and high effort, so thank you for them. And on the other end, the hard paths, we're getting some attention to the Horsemill Path. You've seen some work down there, taking care of some of the old ponding issues. Our bridges are getting some attention. The gentleman that built 2 of our 3 bridges is, in fact, the person who is doing some repairs to bent and broken boards and screws that are backed out and present a touch of a hazard. So I anticipate in the next 30 days, our bridges will be in nice shape. Our bike paths are in nice shape. Our paths are in good shape. So a lot of good to talk about. Thank everybody for their efforts this year, and we're going to do better next year. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Pozas. All right, let's see what I can wrap up here. I want everybody to enjoy the last 2 hours of summer. Fall starts at 10:29 tonight. I love this weather, but today was just gorgeous. Again, thank you for giving us your evening tonight. Some odds and ends. Groseal Historical Society will be hosting the 4th Sundays, September 28th at the Naval Air Station Groseal Lobby Museum at Township Hall. Reservations are required to be made by calling Tammy Taylor at 675-7294 or at info@gihistory.org. Westcroft Gardens, getting ready for Halloween. Westcroft Gardens will present their 14th annual Phantom Forest Hayrides every weekend from September 26th to October 26th, so starting this weekend. Contact Westcroft Gardens at 676-2444. The St. James Rummage Sale begins Friday and Saturday, October 3rd and October 4th. More garage sales. Anyway, Groseal High School Homecoming 2014 is Friday and Saturday, October 3rd and 4th also, busy weekend. Homecoming parade, football game, it's going to be busy around Macomb Street and Grays Drive, so if you have to go through it, please be careful and make the homecoming football game. And William, are you going to announce Stump the Jug? William? Okay, I'll let the expert bring that up. I mentioned, as we talked about drainage and roads and stuff throughout the evening, I said I would get to it later. Well, I will get to it now. in that, just to recap on the storm damage, what we've been through for the last few weeks, beginning with the tremendous rains on October 11th. Officially 3.5 inches was recorded at the airport on the 11th, and then 6/10 the next day. And just kind of reiterate my article that was in the Yale Camera, we had some local flooding, and a little bit of local property damage. We fared very well compared to some local communities. And what made that work? The Drainage Grant Program, we spoke about that earlier. Your tax dollars helping to make that available, and with the township assistance, we have opened up drainage, we have taken care of some low spots and prevented some of the flooding. The drain maintenance efforts we've put in, where we've telescoped the drains, we've cleared the drains. What's going on in Loma Circle is an example of this, to improve a known obstruction of the drain to prevent flooding. Let's see, the wastewater treatment plant, again, at great expense, the sewer, but this precluded the sewer backups that many local communities had. They were just devastating. If you had to drive down Outer Drive through Dearborn with parts of Allen Park, where the entire contents of people's basements were on the side of the road. We didn't have that because, yes, we put a lot of money into the sewer system, but it worked. I'm sure we had a few onesie-twosies that I'd like to know where they are, because we know we have a problem with your system, but by and large, our sewer system handled it. No discharges from the wastewater treatment plant. Again, United Water and the money we put into it. And then lastly, although this kind of got eclipsed, we had almost no power outages during the rains. Unfortunately, that didn't last long, because we did well. Along with the people who helped clear the drains, I've seen people out clearing the catch basins, clearing the culverts. It makes a big difference to allow that water to drain off properly without being impeded, without being allowed to pool and flood. Okay, so I made a mistake of saying congratulations, we dodged a bullet and we did real well. And then, about 2 weeks later, we get hit with the winds. And the official wind we had at the airport was 58 knots, 67 miles an hour. Looking at West River Road, which was unimpeded, the wind coming right down Van Horn Road, where it did most of the damage, picking up speed across the water, hitting West River, taking out the power lines, snapping poles off, blowing trees over, cutting right across the island, knocking out everything in its path. It was a mess. Now, normally we don't have, that's normally the homeowner's expense to clean that up, either insurance or family and friends. We made, as your board, we made a decision that we were not going to let the community have this devastated appearance. We'd spend the money, we would clear, if you would get the debris to the roadside, we would clear it. I've gotten, I know we missed a few, but by and large, we contracted with TNT. It's done, I think, an admirable job. I haven't heard any complaints. Probably a couple out there. We know we have some that we've missed. We're going to make another pass on that, on the ones we know about. But by and large, as a community, we looked at the devastation. We decided we'd clean up as a community. I hate to reference New Orleans after Katrina, where nobody did anything except blame George Bush, and there are parts that still haven't been rebuilt. And here we are a couple of weeks later, most of the places, other than all these snapped off tree trunks, the debris is cleared up and we're back to business. So I'm real proud of the residents, the jobs you've done, your support in us, and what we've done with the few assets we have, but the great contractors we have long relationships with. Cleaned it up. So thanks everyone for your support, and we'll continue to look after it. Again, these proactive measures are what makes it easy to not have the devastation that the other communities have endured. And I went to a number of meetings with FEMA, and I just felt blessed. I didn't even need to be there. These people had thousands of households that had been wiped out. We had 2, and there may be a couple other minor ones. So yeah, we're not done collecting. If you had storm or flood damage, I still need your reports. They're still taking them, and I will be trying to get reimbursed through FEMA for our, if at all possible, for the wind damage that the township's paid to clean up. So with that, I will. That's my report, Mr. Supervisor.
May I make one short addition?
You may, sir.
Thank you. In my report, I I apologize to the fire department. A volunteer fireman were up all night clearing trees that were down on the roads, assuring that people were not exposed to down power lines. Literally, they were up all night doing this, and I want to thank them for that. I'd also like to thank you and our manager, Dale William, for taking this matter, getting it under control quickly, and seeing to it that, in fact, the roads were cleared, business got on as quickly as possible. Thank you to all, but especially thank you to the volunteer firemen for the long hours that you put in to assure that the residents were safe, roads were cleared, and we were able to get our township back in order. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malvesto.
Yeah, just to add to that, in addition to the volunteer fire department, the police reserves and the police force as well.
Watching over the down lines, making sure there were no accidental contacts. Parents seem to have kept your kids away from them. We had no electrocutions, and we had lots of down lines, lots of fireworks. DPS, our skeleton staff, we're up, again, all the same thing, all night working with the firefighters, getting done what needed to be done to keep the roads open. Some of you, many of you looked after your neighbors, the elderly or those unable of clearing their driveways. Guys were out with chainsaws clearing their neighbor's drive along with their own. It was just a good Herculean community effort. We're up and running. Other communities are still rebuilding the pieces. So again, thanks to one and all. Pat yourselves on the back. And with that, and what the Garden Club has done to the entryway on Grosse Ile Parkway, the place is just beautiful. Every time I cross the bridge, I'm just so proud to be a resident here, and I guess I'm proud to be in this seat for as long as you'll keep me here. That'll conclude my report. I'll turn it over to the Township Manager, Mr. William.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. A few items to report on the status of the Recreation Department by way of update, but I wanted to notify the board and the community. Earlier today, the fire chief, Township Attorney Tom Sawyer and myself went to a settlement conference regarding the abandoned dangerous buildings on Rio Road, and without getting into too much detail, the property owner is required by the judge to do some fencing and some cleanup in the next 2 weeks. The property is on the market, and I would expect we'll have a status conference probably in another month and see how the process of that potential sale is going. So we're focusing on getting a place, keeping it safe and contained, and we're moving forward through that process.
Excuse me, Dale?
Yes, sir.
You said it was up for sale, but then you said then you said it sounded like you said there was a bid or something in. Is there a potential sale?
The property owner has listed this for sale, and the judge wanted documentation that this was actually on the market, and is very interested to see how the market reacts to
so there is no posting. There is no pending sale.
There is no pending sale that we're aware of, but it was communicated by the property owner that there was a potential offer from weeks past, but was nowhere near the asking price.
And did the judge at all say how long he was going to allow the sales process to go on?
No, sir.
Okay.
Next item, on behalf of Finance Director Ian Darsnick, who was at a finance conference, wanted me to report on the August 27th check register for $3,024 legal fees. That's for you, Mr. Clark. And also on the check register dated September 19th, $797 for legal fees. Regarding the Recreation Department, I have a handful of items. I reported at the last meeting we were going to continue evaluating the pool of candidates for the Recreation Director, and that is what we are still doing. So we're not rushing that process. We're going through the candidate list, and we hope to be finalizing a recommendation and coming to the board soon. believe it was in early August when the board approved the bid for the dasher boards for the all-season weather rink. And it was reported that we would be putting together an advisory committee, if you will, which is somewhat of a subcommittee of the Community Recreation Commission, to evaluate the usage of this facility, to deal with what rules and regulations, how it will be reserved. It was promised by these groups, and a commitment made by myself that there will be fundraising, and how we're going to maintain this facility and keep it open, up and running. And this group will be meeting this week. So I want to report to the board that it is in process, and we'll put together, if you will, the package for Trustee Modesto to bring to the Community Recreation Commission, and in essence march forward with how this is operation or facility is going to be operated. So I want to let everyone know that that was a big item on the top of the radar. And that construction of those dasher boards is scheduled to start on October 20th. So definitely in process. I attended a community development block grant hearing regarding some 2011 funds that were allocated for the universal kayak launch. As you know, we reviewed those bids, and due to the delay in the state bidding process, the contractor no longer held their price. And that contract price was $68,000, and due to the delay and the proposed extra charges put that over $100,000. So we are evaluating breaking that into components, and with the blessing of community development block grant folks, we can do just that by the RFP process. So because of that delay, we had some 2011 funds that we needed to go to the block grant folks and say, hey, we're evaluating this process, we need an extension on these funds. And that was approved at the block grant meeting last Thursday. And the proposal and recommendation by block grant staff that if we pursue this RFP process, the step one would be to purchase the actual structure, the floating pier, and they recommended that we do that by the end of this calendar year, so December 31st. So that is the direction we're looking at, and we'll be proceeding in that manner, subject to Wayne County's approval. So we expect that all to fall into place over the next several weeks.
Can you bring it, will that, you be bringing that before us?
For the actual purchase, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let me see my scribbles. Golf fall specials, $10 a walk for 9 holes, $14 with the cart at Water's Edge. The weather is wonderful.
Greens look good.
Yes. So, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Wynn.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may add one more thing, one more check to O'Reilly Rancilio. We had 3 check registers, and I know I don't want Woody to feel cheated. The third check was for $713.
Oh, did I miss mine?
I missed it too. Good job. Lots of scrutiny. Since we mentioned a couple of legal activities, our township attorney is asking for some mic time. Mr. Osorio.
As Dale indicated, we were in court today. I think the board is now getting familiar enough with me to know that my recommendation to the board and members of the township is that we don't comment on pending litigation. So that's the extent of why Dale has been somewhat limited. Because of the kind of unique situation with this, kind of it affects the whole township with this situation. I will tell you that Dale will tell you that that was the very first question out of my mouth to the judges: when will it be done? We did not get an answer, which is okay with us at this time, because we're very confident that Judge Sullivan is aware of the situation. He went through with the property owner in great detail the concerns that we have and the concerns that the judge has about the property. There's been substantial requirements on behalf of the owner as far as securing the facility, essentially removing all of the brush, any trees that are associated with it. Chief Murdoch was with us, and I made sure that the Judge Sullivan understood each and every one of Chief Murdoch's concerns, and he did a great job of listening to him and making sure that they were fulfilled. There'll be some additional safety concerns with regard to making sure that if there is a fire there, if there's another problem, he can get to it and can be controlled, and that everything is done physically possible to make sure that nobody goes in there. Because of the costs involved of demoing those two buildings, the judge, I think, is somewhat reluctant, is exploring every opportunity to allow someone to come in and develop that property in another way. Unfortunately, with the costs involved, you'd essentially make the property valueless to add the cost of the demo on top of that. So he's hoping that can be the case. He did give us some additional authority, the township some additional authority to work directly with DTE to make sure that we've confirmed that the power and gas is shut off in methods that Chief Murdoch feels comfortable with. There are some very short deadlines for some things to get done. And without going into great detail, the three of us left there, even though we didn't receive an order from the court allowing us to demo, that the judge is very aware of the situation, is on a very, very short rope with the property owner, and that if this doesn't get done, he's going to make sure that it is properly taken care of. Okay? And if there's any of you have any individual questions, be happy to answer them.
I know it's been a tedious process, but for those of you who don't, why can't we have to follow our laws, all protecting property owners, and we've got to go step by step.
Well, this is a unique situation in that I'm confident that we've followed all the rules, both mandated by the state and by our own ordinances. The problem we have with this situation is, quite honestly, when we're getting up into the cost associated with potentially demolishing 2 of the 5 buildings, is essentially half of the value of the property. So you're going to increase the by taking it down without some sort of a plan for future development. You're going to increase the cost now by another 50%, which essentially would make it unmarketable. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where the judge is coming from. He wants to see it get done so that neither the property owner or the township gets stuck flipping the bill for a substantial amount of money. And hopefully it can be factored into whatever development's done in the future.
Other comments for Mr. Soto?
Just please keep us up to date timely on what's going on that.
We will.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. All right, at this time, we'll open up to public comment. Well, we're waiting on you, Mr. Clark, because we want to know about what's going on with Dump the Junk.
Okay. Dump the Trunk is going to be October 18th and 19th. Also, we're going to have wood cutting around November 1st. That's going to be open to everybody. Everybody off the island, on the island, I don't care where they're from. As long as they can cut it and they're going to be safe. So we can clean this damn place up.
Okay, we got to come in for an application.
Sure, we got to come in just like they did before, down see Carol, put the paperwork out. They can, we'll have extra ones the day of the cutting. On the dump the truck, there's no electricity, no paint, and that stuff. Now, what is a dashboard? Dashboard. What is that?
Those are the boards that Carl Moore has been threatening to slam me into once we both get on the ice at the same time at the new ice rink. The boards around the ice rink, those are dasher boards.
Okay. Also on these people who are bringing their trash out from the storm that they had, it seems like people are adding some of the people are cutting, some of the stuff didn't fall. They fall after they cut it, or same chainsaw it, but they didn't, some of them didn't look like it was being in the storm.
Well,
Being afterwards.
we considered that was a possibility, you know, shame on them, taking advantage.
Don't screw up a crisis, let's add to it.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got one thing here, let's see if you know who this is. How to create a social state. There are 8 levels of control that must be obtained before they're able to create a social state. The first is the most important, healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. 2, poverty. Increase the poverty level at the highest as possible. Poor people are easy to control and will not fight back if we're providing everything for them to live. 3, debt. Increase the debt as a sustainable level. That way you're able to increase the taxes and this will produce more poverty. Gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you'll be able to create a police state. Welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives, food, housing, income. Education is 6. Take control of the people who read and listen. Take control of what the children learn in school. Religion. Remove the belief in God and the covenant in schools. Class welfare. Divide the people who are wealthy and poor. This will cause more discontent, and it will be easier to tax wealthy and support the poor. Now, who do you think said that?
George Bush.
Who, George Bush? No, Saul. You know Saul Alinsky?
Trying to get a rise out of you.
Saul Alinsky. You don't know who he is? He's a buddy of Barack.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Anybody want to top that? Any other public comment from the public present? All right, 3, 2, 1, time is up. I will entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Okay, moved by trustee Pojek, seconded by trustee Bud. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none offered. Call adjourned at 9:02 p.m. We have an hour and a half of summer left. Enjoy. Thanks for coming tonight, folks. We'll see you in October.
Tigers,